Mr. Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, welcome to Bloomberg, sir.
Thank you very much.
32-12, a heck of a triumph on the field for the Springboks. The triumphant sporting achievement is going to fade away, and we're going to get back to talking about where the growth will come for this economy. Where will the growth come from?
Well, we want growth in our economy, and we're putting a number of measures in place to correct what business people have said are impediments and constraints that are holding growth back. And they want us to release the energy of this economy in a number of areas. For instance, they want the regulatory environment to be eased so that it is much better for them to do business. In the telecommunications space, they want us to release the broadband spectrum, which we are already doing, because they are ready to invest billions and billions of rands so that they can capture the new market that is unfolding in data. And they also want us to focus on mining, to ensure that the regulatory environment in mining is eased and corrected, because many of the miners see mining as a sunrise industry, and they want us to put things right for them to invest more and more there.
It's a year since we last spoke to you, and I suppose what we want to know as international investors is, what is the biggest piece of transformation and regulation that you've done that business welcome? If I said to you, what's the top thing that you've done for business, what is it?
Well, the first thing is to put right what had gone wrong in terms of the body politic of the country, to reposition the country and infuse confidence by investors. Investors had seen our country sliding down, bedeviled by corruption, by state capture. We have corrected that, and state capture is now being dealt with, and we are now focusing on creating that investment climate and environment for them to invest. What have we done? They complained about the visas. We've corrected that. They complained about the broad spectrum, that we should release it. We've corrected that. They've complained about a whole number of other regulatory impediments,
yes,
like water and other licenses, setting up a one-stop shop and setting up an infrastructure fund. And all these things are bright lights that are beginning to flash for investors to take notice of us. Now, the important thing is that with this investment conference, in the midst of all the challenges we're facing, 1,500 potential investors and investors have come here, and we're going to be recording well over 300 billion rand of new investment that is going to be planted in this country. That is a sign of great confidence in South Africa, because investors always want to follow the good things that are being done in a country.
And I heard you say on stage you want to go from contact to contract. The naysayers, the detractors,
yeah,
say that you lack the political capital, that you don't have the aggression to grasp the nettle of reform. 3 taxi drivers in Goldman Sachs told me that. What do you say to those detractors, that you lack the political capital?
Well, we do have the gumption to move ahead with the reforms that we need to have. What we've sought to do is to follow the path of full collaboration with our partners and get our partners to work with us. Because it is when we work together with our partners that we are able to go much further. There is an African saying that if you want to go somewhere and you want to go quickly, go alone. But if you want to go far, take a number of other people with you. And this is exactly what we are doing.
But
we want to go far.
To do that politically, Mr. President, you're going to have to unnerve a lot of people politically within the ANC, within the very people who have stood behind you. Are you prepared to do that now and become, as Goldman said to us yesterday, become more aggressive?
We don't have to be dramatic to get things done. We've got to work together with our partners and build consensus and take people along with us. And that is a style that is sure to produce better results. Now, of course, people want dramatic events. They want bones to be broken. They want heads to be smashed. And we are saying, in this country, we've done things a lot better by building consensus, working together, and it is this that has brought us to where we are. 25 years later, our economy, yes, has challenges, but it is poised to grow. Our political environment is stable, and that has been born out of precisely this way of working.
Can I pick up on the growth element? It's been a tough year for 2019, and people are slashing the growth forecast. How important is it that the US and China do a substantial trade deal to make a difference to your growth numbers?
Well, it is important that they should, because the two entities, the two countries, are big traders with us. We trade extremely well with the US, is one of our biggest traders, and as it is with China. So the trade wars that are taking place are not good for growth. They're not good for our economy. So we want the trade wars to come to an end so that the peace that will exist between the two big economies in the world can unleash our own growth. Because
you think that they will do a deal and that will unleash growth for you?
We think and we hope and we trust and we want to see a deal between them, because once there is a deal, that unleashes a lot of growth in our own economy.
You've got 3 months. Moody's, you've just dodged an official downgrade. I don't need to tell you that. They want action, and the markets want to see what action. Now, you've warned me and said don't expect something dramatic, but the market wants to see something demonstrable from you. What is that going to be in the next 3 months?
Well, you see, Moody's wants to see us deal with Eskom.
Yes.
They want us to deal with the debt that is in Eskom. They also want us to deal with expenditure. Now, we've already committed to reducing expenditure on a number of platforms. But at the same time, we're focusing now, as I said in my main speech, on the debt, on how we will be able to deal with the debt. And we will be able to deal with the debt by improving the operations in Eskom, because they were broken.
But are you prepared to take on some of the debt onto the government balance sheet? It would be cheaper. That's what we're being told. It's cheaper. Take the debt, stick it on the government balance sheet, and move on.
Well, we have already taken quite a lot of that by giving them bailouts.
Yes.
And the minister has now said, we're no longer going to give you bailouts, we're now going to give you loans. And these are loans that, yes, over time you will have to pay back. And that, in a way, is a very important step. In the end, the government has to stand behind Eskom, because Eskom is just too big to fail. It is just too important an entity in the life of our economy for it to fail. So we are committed to supporting Eskom going forward.
Have you created a moral hazard? You say it's too big to fail, but the reality of it is you're at war with some of the people in your cabinet in terms of over what to do with Eskom. Perhaps, Mr. President, if I may challenge you, it is you who is blocking a road to sorting out Eskom.
No, it isn't. The way to sort out Eskom is the way that I announced. And we are going to restructure Eskom, and we're not going to turn back from that, because the way we've announced is the modernization of our energy supplier. It is the way the world has gone in a number of countries. There is no other option. And of course, people have the right, they have all the freedom to express their views.
And that's the healthy point.
And that is very healthy. In a democracy, you've got to allow people to express themselves, but while the caravan moves on.
But what about the caravan? Because the reality of that caravan, Mr. President, is everybody says to me there needs to be substantial job cuts in this country with Eskom, and there needs to be wage cuts. Are you prepared to enact sizable job cuts at Eskom, or for that matter, cut public wages? Do you think society here can take it? Will you do it, first of all, those two things?
No. What we are seeking to do is to actually engage in discussions. We're engaging in discussions to show the stark reality of our situation so that everybody appreciates. Right now, not everybody fully appreciates exactly where we are. And we are now engaged in a process of getting people to appreciate where we are. And with that level of appreciation, then we will then be able to move forward. And in the end, and moving forward is going to give us a number of options. I believe in looking at options, the best option being that, the worst option being that.
Well, what is the best option, Mr. President? What is the best option?
No, that is what is going to come up as we discuss matters and as we delve into what needs to be done. In the end, the solutions that will be crafted are going to be solutions that everyone is going to own and believe that this is the best way forward. Now, everyone, people become so populist. People, without even thinking about issues, the first thing that comes to mind, cut jobs, cut wages,
yes,
cut
that's
this.
what everybody's screaming for.
That's populism.
Okay, what's reality? What is
the reality is that you've got to sit down and discuss all matters fully with everyone, because we're not lone rangers. We are involved in all this with our various partners, and once we have come to a solution, then we press the button and then we implement.
How would you reflect the support of the unions for you at this juncture in dealing with Eskom?
Well, we're in discussion with the unions.
Would you say it's good discussions, fraught discussions?
It is good discussions. We're having very good discussion, productive discussions, and our discussions are based on the reality of our situation.
You're talking about bringing capital into this country, and so therein lies non-core asset sales to help the fiscal situation. What's realistically achievable? Let's go for 2020.
Yeah.
What do you think is realistically achievable in Rand for asset sales, non-core asset sales?
Well, there are quite a number of assets that can be parceled out. And it's difficult now to actually, count which ones they are, how much they will bring in,
well,
and all that.
Give me a taster.
There are quite a few assets that are, in the end, assets that we can look at more closely and say, is this really playing a beneficial role to the economy? Should this still be in state hands? And we are going through that process.
But what about South African Airways? It's much talked about. And what we want to know is that realistic? Have you had substantial talks about an equity partner or a sale of South African Airways?
We are in discussions with potential equity partners.
Is that an African or a European?
Well, we are in discussions. This is a market-sensitive issue.
I know.
And I think, as a business reporter, you will appreciate that. So we are in discussions with potential partners, and I'm happy to leave it there. The real issue is that we've arrived at a situation where we have said SAA does need an equity partner, a strategic equity partner to take it forward.
Do you have a timeline? Do you have a timeline in mind?
And of course, we want things to be done as quickly as possible.
End of the first quarter, could you see a deal being done?
To be done as quickly as possible. It's all very easy to say we want it by first quarter, and if that doesn't happen, it's a failure. You will report. But we want things to be done properly.
The truth and the facts from the President. Yeah. The other thing is this. We've talked about escaping the downgrade, but the reality of it is the markets are punching the Rand. They're waiting to punch the Rand. What message do you have to the people who are shorting the Rand with a sightline on a downgrade? What's your message to the speculators that have the Rand in their sightline?
Well, you see, the Rand is a much traded currency, yes. Possibly the most traded currency in the world. That one has to accept as a reality. And it's been volatile. It has gone up and down, and it's been driven by a whole number of factors. One morning is driven by a statement that the Minister of Finance has made. The next day it's driven by a statement that the President has made.
You're the President. Are you prepared to defend the Rand against speculators?
Well, you see, I'm not going to answer that, because that's the sensationalist type of answer that you seek. And we are saying we want to continue managing the currency of our country in a prudent manner. And that is the important thing that we have to do. Because if you say defend it, it means that we're throwing money at it. And it pleases a number of people. They trade on that basis. And we say we want the rand, the currency, to be managed prudently.
Well, let me be slightly less dramatic.
Yes.
And slightly more factual.
Yes.
There's a risk of capital flight on a downgrade. Anywhere between $1.5 billion, that's a conservative number, $15.5 billion is the very wide and outlandish number. Are you prepared for a moment of capital flight if a downgrade comes?
Well, with the downgrades we've had, there was a response from capital, and there was capital flight that left the country. And that's always the risk that we've got to prepare ourselves for. And it is for this reason that we're going to do as much as we possibly can to try and defend our position and make sure that we do not get to a downgrade type of scenario. And how are we going to do that? We're going to look at the fiscal position, make sure that we manage the fiscal position prudently, and look at the areas that the rating agencies have focused on, which is Eskom and our own expenditure, and look at the best way we can manage the expenditure. We have already embarked, as I said earlier, on a path where we're reducing our expenditure, and of course we are going to keep to that because it is important for us to live within the means that we can.
To close, we've seen protests in Chile, protests in Lebanon. Governments have fallen. How prepared is South African society to take perhaps some of the tough medicine that you're about to dish out? Are you concerned about the febrality of South African society in the face of these cuts?
No, I'm not concerned because our people do understand. We've been telling our people the tough conditions that we are living under, and we've also been saying that we all need to take a bit of a haircut. We all need to make some sacrifices for the time being, and this will prepare us better for the growth that is going to happen. Because with these investments that are being announced today, we're hoping that growth will be generated, and the measures that we are taking to restructure, to embark on reforms, those will be very important markers for growth to begin to be generated in our economy. So we're working very hard, and our people are very much aware of all this. So I'm not looking forward to protests and so forth, because our people are with us. We're all involved in a journey. And as long as we are transparent and as long as we communicate very well to them, they realize the challenges that we are in, and they all know that we've all got to make sacrifices.
Mr. Cyril Ramaphosa, President of South Africa, thank you very much for being with me on Bloomberg.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.